joining us on the podcast platforms or wherever you join us, all those places. My voice is nearly there, not quite there. It wasn't as bad as last week. That was probably horrifying to listen to for everyone, but it was nice to do a little solo kind of catch up because we've had a run of guests there the last few months really, and I've hadn't really had the chance to do a solo episode. So kind of celebrating the 150, I thought we'd give it a go. Yeah, we are over on Buy Me a Coffee if you want to go over there. If I forget to say it at the end of the episode, have a very nice Christmas because this will be the last episode before Christmas. But we'll get on with it. Our guest today is a jiu-jitsu competitor and brown belt, and her name is Rosa Walsh. How are you doing, Rosa?
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
Not at all. Thank you very much for coming on. We always we always start at the beginning, like I said to you, when I messaged you about the couple of questions. We always start with a short history of your upbringing, please.
Okay, so I was born in Cork, in West Cork specifically. There's three in my family. There's my mom, my sister, and me. And it was like really like idyllic like childhood. Like we like grew up like in the countryside. Like my mom was like such a health freak, so like we always had really good food. And then when I was about like 10 or 11, we moved to the city, to Cork City, and then from then there we kind of like we became kind of like city children or whatever. But yeah, I played sports my whole entire life. When I was like 14, so we were in the city at that stage, I started boxing, which is in terms of like combat sports and everything. So went to boxing and then I went to Thai boxing and MMA and then jiu-jitsu kind of came into that then. So even though like jiu-jitsu, I've only been doing it since I was like 16, 17, like I have been quite athletic my entire life.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of it.
No, that's perfect. Perfect summation. My mom is from Cork. I have to mention that every time someone says they're from Cork because
Yeah,
it's
of
yeah, it's
course.
just people from Cork are very proud to be from Cork. So I like to throw
Yeah.
that in there. It's very important to people from Cork to mention. But so then, Rosa, when did you first become aware of mental health?
See, mental health was always something I never really understood.
Mhm.
Like when I was in school, still was never a thing. And like even towards the end of my secondary school days, like there was the well-being module coming into secondary school. And then I actually qualified as a PE and English teacher, like from my degree. So like that's what I went to university for. So then like with the PE I suppose understanding then. Like it was only literally in the last like 4 or 5 years I probably understood what it
Mhm.
was and like maintenance and like general like definition of it. So like very recently, like when I was a kid, it never crossed my like it was never really there, like it was never really present because I wasn't really aware of it. And then like as in my teens, there was definitely I had issues, but I wasn't really aware of what was wrong. It was just like I was like proper Irish, but Irish like mentality, like oh, I was hungry or I hadn't slept well the night before,
Yeah.
you know. So like, but that was just something that was all I was aware of. Like I never became. It was just until I was in college and then I started teaching in schools in Ireland. It's like okay, this is an issue. This is like a concept in itself and stuff like that. So like it's not great that I've only become aware of it like only in the last couple of years, but like it's great that I'm aware of it now, you know.
Yeah, like that's another thing, and we talk because obviously I ask this to every person who comes on. It's not like becoming aware of it whenever you become aware of it is a generational thing too. Depending when you grew up and your situation when you grew up, of course, as well. Like, and sometimes it takes some people who've come on that have even not really been aware of it or haven't seen it or around or it hasn't affected them or their family and things like that, which is great for them, of course. Like, but I think you see in groups now. I had gone into where I train now. I started about 6 years ago or something, and when I went in there, I started opening up about it to everybody. I was kind of ashamed of it for a number of years after what, like, I had a really bad period when I was around 27. So I was very kind of ashamed and embarrassed. And that the Irish thing, I ran out of those Irish excuses as well. It's one of those things where I just had to face it. Like, you come face to face with it, but you start to see it in groups how people are different towards it and how they help it differently, or sorry, how they kind of approach it differently. And I've seen that now in the gym, and it's really great. And we will be talking a lot about jiu-jitsu now and how it has helped me an awful lot. So to get people on, who have do jujitsu and stuff and see how it
Hmm.
is, not only just for the mental health, but the physical health too, and that you
Of
already
course.
had that, like, background from your mom, like you said, eating healthy food, which is obviously a huge thing, but
Yeah.
how the training has helped. Like, so you started in boxing. What was it? Was jiu-jitsu in the same club at the time?
No, like it was,
Okay.
I started in 2012, like post Katie Taylor Olympics.
Wow.
Um, then I boxed from the age of like, I think I was like 14 to 16, it's about 2 years. And like like before that, it was a case of I wasn't really doing like much high intensity stuff. And for me, now I need to just like if I'm training, I'm training. I'm not like like faffing around. Like that just pisses me off so much. Like I dedicate so much to I dedicate so much time and passion to training. Even then, it's like I'm not here just for have to have fun. I'm here to challenge myself. It was something now that like this has to be the hardest part of my day, Because
Yeah.
like for me now, um, even since I was like 13, 14, like I find like everything all out of the gym or everything off the mat extremely hard. Like I'm very
Yeah.
socially awkward. I like I'll mask it really well. And if like I ever meet anybody in person, they'll never know. But it's like I'm struggling big time. But then it's like somebody's when I started going when I was in America, it's like the first went to America, I wrestled for a good bit.
Okay.
God, Jesus Christ, like wrestling was so much harder than in
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu. But like one of the coaches said to me, and it was like, we do wrestling to make life easy. And I was like, whoa, I was like, it's
Yeah.
like mind blown. But that's the thing. It was like I started training at that intensity that young in all these crazy combat sports because it was like if this is the hardest part of my day, the rest of the day will be fine. I'll
Yeah.
manage. So it was something now that I always kind of like try to keep on board. Yeah. That's kind of
Yeah, but
like
and that's the thing. Like when people see jujitsu for the first time, it's an odd experience. Like because you obviously you don't know what's going on, right? That goes without saying because it is even when your first few classes, when you're doing some drilling and stuff, and you haven't gone into the rolling part, like the drilling seems like it's complicated in your mind. You're like, I can't understand any of this, but at the same time, at least it's there, and there's no, there's a gap between you and the person you're with, and you close it, and it opens, and you close. But when it's rolling, it's almost like just closed, and you're jammed in there, and you can barely kind of see what's going on. So it is a pretty full on kind of sport in that way. It's not. I don't think you compare it with anything else. So how did you, when you went from, say you were talking about wrestling, to go into jiu-jitsu, how was the transition for you?
um so I was wrestling only this year when I was in America.
Okay.
So I was kind of doing them in tandem. So like I was doing a lot of wrestling as well as jiu-jitsu for most of my time in America. But I don't know, I think like they really complement each other.
Yeah.
Like in Daisy Fresh now where I was for so long, like there's a massive wrestling influence and like a lot of the wrestlers did jiu-jitsu and then a lot of the
Mhm.
jiu-jitsu people wrestled then. But like I think there's no harm in doing either. I think the people who did both were the ones that like benefited the most.
Yeah.
Like, and even then you've got like Jacob Couch who was on the mat wrestling in wrestling boots every single day, and he pulls guard in competition.
Yeah.
So it's like it doesn't really. I don't know if they transition was any different because like they both just like regardless of what you were doing, you're going to do well anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that was the biggest thing with wrestling, and like I've done jiu-jitsu for so long before this year. And then for me now, it was more a case of I had to add wrestling into my arsenal or whatever. And it was like, okay, this is like making my life so much harder. But it's
Yeah.
like, it's going to be, I just know it's going to pay off. And,
Yeah.
and I did obviously towards the end of the year, but like that was a big thing. It was such a challenge. It was like, I can't, and like even wherever I've trained in Ireland, and like I was in Cork and for obviously the 7 years beforehand training, and it was like, I was comfortable. I was very
Yeah.
comfortable, and I was like I could take it easy. Like I kind of like I can even in a competition in Ireland, it was like I can kind of chill out here. Like I've won a lot against a lot of these girls. I've like I didn't challenge myself.
Yeah.
Wasn't challenging myself at all. And then when I got to America, I was like, okay, this is like the big leagues now. I can't take it easy in training. I have to prove myself on the mat. Like I'm this random Irish girl who's turned up to pedagogos. Like I was like, you have to go. And like I think when it changed, when my kind of perception of that changed, it was like I can't be lazy.
Yeah.
I can like, and I like basically give me an inch and I'll take a mile, regardless to like how little I can do in training.
Yeah.
But then it was like, then when I actually get going, it's like, okay, I love this. I'll just go for hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bit crazy, but I love
But
it.
yeah, but that's you, like that's obviously you need that. But like a lot of people would kind of rest on their laurels a little bit when it comes to that. When you say about competing in Ireland or something where it's obviously a lot smaller pool of people, um, it would be quite easy just to pick up all the gold medals and be delighted with yourself. It's obviously something in you that there's a drive in you that needs to keep kind of going and keep proving yourselves against like the more elite people.
Yeah, 100%. And like so this time last year, I was actually asked to leave my previous gym. Just we fell out on not great terms. And then, so from like this time last year, I was like, I can't stay here, you know. I was like, I don't have anything left, you know. And there was a couple other personal issues I had at the time, but it was like from then on, it was like from January, I just went for it. I was like, I do want to do this. I can't really train properly to the level that I want in Ireland. I want to go full time with this. I had like money saved because I was teaching a lot. I was in a secondary school. So from then I kind of just went for it and I was like, I want to see how far I can do this. I want to see if I'm at that level. I know I'm good in the European the Irish scene
Mhm.
based on my like not like fucking blowing my own horn, but it's like just based on my competition records. I was like, but I want to make a go of it. Like I want to see if I can do this as a professional career. And then obviously when I went to Florida in April to the Pan Ams in the Gi. I met Fionn, and then it kind of snowballed from there. You know, and then obviously having her and seeing what she had done, and like she was such a trailblazer for females in general, but then obviously she was such a massively amazing mentor for me. I was like, okay. Then I think it was like a day into we were in Florida for like a day, and I was, or I'm staying.
Yeah.
So
For people who might not know Rosa, so Fionn is a just explain who Fionn is to the people who don't know jiu-jitsu maybe.
yeah, so Fionn is the number one female in the sport at the moment. She has won multiple world titles at the colored belts. And then this year specifically, she won the world championships of black belt. She was the first UK athlete, male or female, to do it. Then she won ADCC in September, first UK athlete to do it, male or female. So she kind of like completed jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, yeah,
She
she's done
won the
it.
two big, yeah, she's done it, she's finished. So like literally it was just completely coincidence that we were in the same place at the same time. And then we kind of clicked so well. She obviously moved to New York. I moved to Illinois. And like just it was just I honestly I wouldn't still be in America if it wasn't for her. Because it was like I'm independent, confident, whatever in some ways, but it was like whenever I was there in America, like I was in California for a bit and I was having like bad days, I was like, what am I doing here? I need to go home. She'd be like, no, you're there for a reason. I've had this situation come up which is similar to yours. And this is how I dealt with it. And I was like, okay, there's somebody who gets it. I know, so, you know, so I think Fiona was just the most amazing help for the last year. And now that like we have each other then coming into the next year, like into 2023, like it's gonna be make my life so much easier, you know.
Yeah, I think everybody needs someone like that, like, in their lives. I think it's such an important thing to be helped out and driven on, like, because if you're having, a particular tough time or whatever, it's important to have that person that you can trust, and
Of
just get on with it,
course.
you know.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, this was kind of happened recently in our gym as well. So, uh, I got to thinking about it. Like, what do like belts in jiu-jitsu mean to you?
Great question. Um, I think they don't really mean as much as they did.
Mhm.
Like when I started as a white belt, I was like, oh my God, when am I getting my next blue belt? When am I getting my next stripe? You know?
Yeah,
And it was like such a big deal. And then you got the people then, the coaches then who like obviously I even categorize it, but they mark it down to like attendance and stuff like that, which I don't really like, you
yeah,
know. I think it takes away from I suppose the purity of jiu-jitsu and like I suppose the authenticity of jiu-jitsu. And you've got people then who maybe don't maybe promote a bit too quickly or like wait a lot of time, you know. So I think after my couple of years experiencing that across the different gyms and around the world and stuff that I've seen, like when it comes, it comes, you know.
yeah, yeah.
It's like I got so I was 18 when I got my purple belt. I was I was 20 when I got my brown belt. So I was no, I wasn't. I wasn't. I was 20 when I got my purple belt.
Right.
And then I was 22 when I got my brown belt. Yeah. So when I was 22, when I was got my brown belt in 2020, I was like, oh my God, this is such a big deal, you know?
Yeah.
And like I'm coming into my third year as a brown belt and like I could like if I never get to compete as adult black belt, I'll be okay, you
Yeah.
know? That is the goal. I do want to win an adult like major.
Yeah.
So like I've got 5 years left of hopefully getting a black belt, but like they just don't mean anything, you know. I love jiu-jitsu and it's given me so much this year and this year especially. Like I really took jiu-jitsu for granted, like for the last 7 years up until 2022, because it was like it was just part of my routine. It was like my friends were there, like my whole life was there. But it's like then when all of that part of my life kind of ended and like like I'm not that those people aren't in my life anymore. It was like, okay, now this jiu-jitsu has to be for me.
Yeah.
Because then I went to move to America and everything. It was like, okay, I love jiu-jitsu and the belts will come in their own time, but I have to just remember why I like I have to basically just not take it for granted, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And like it's like getting your brown belt at 22 is obviously impressive, goes without saying. It's very impressive. But I love the fact like in the categories that you're like you're an adult till you're 30 and then you get to and then you're old over the hill obviously like but it's funny it's that kind of age groups that I kind of it's funny I can't quite understand but as far as like going back to the belt thing for just from my point of view I find it really funny when I started in there like I was the same by the way as what you're saying. Now you consider this I was 35 when I started so for a 35-year-old man to be excited about getting a little stripe on a belt is outrageous but at the same time, it didn't mean something because you see yourself progressing and it's exciting and stuff.
Of course.
When I got my blue belt, I was thrilled with myself, but I still thought to myself, well, I'm not blue belt. Like I don't know why I'm getting this belt. I think I'll always be like that. I'll always be like, there's no way I'm
Same.
this, and it's. Just, I wonder if it's like a universal kind of situation where we don't quite think we're because I was talking to someone recently. They just got their purple belt a couple of weeks ago, and I said, "This is what I think I am. I think I'm a purple belt defensively and a white belt offensively, and that makes a average
Hmm.
blue belt. That's what I think now. My coach will be listening to this and might argue something completely different, but I do think that uh, belts aren't the be all and end all, and I think they are great, obviously, when you get them and the person hands them to you and it's fun and all that. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I don't know if I'm really getting this. I was the opposite of what you're saying there. I was kind of thinking, I'm getting this because I hear a lot, or that like I clean up after myself or something. Like I don't know.
Hmm.
I couldn't quite kind of put myself down to being like a genuine blue belt. So it's funny what the mind does to you. I think.
But that's the thing as well that I always thought was crazy, and this comes back to a whole host of other issues, is that like I never trusted the judgment of the old coach because I saw the levels to which he was promoting other people. And
Okay.
as they're way better than me, or they've only been here once in the last year, you know?
Yeah.
And then it got to a stage now when it was like I'm with a new team and like the most recent, like the new team that I'm with Pedigle, is like they have 5 black belts ever.
Wow.
And like Jacob Couch is one of them. Like that's the level you're looking at. So it's like I don't mind being held to that standard because I have to rise to it. Like, look, in all honesty, and like I'm a very honest person. Like I know if I'd stayed in Ireland, I'd be a black belt right now
Yeah.
at the gym that I was with, and I'm well aware of that. Like a handful of people who I started around the same time that I did were promoted, well due. Like they have the whole host of it. Like they have a lot of accolades to their name, but like for me now leaving and like going to this new gym, which is another aspect. Like they can't just promote some randomer that came off the street. Like, but
Yeah.
you've got Jacob Couch. That's the level. The one who just won double gold at the last 2 majors and has been submitting black belts for the entire year. And like I just think that's the level that Heath has held me to, and like I'm like it just means I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that I still have something to it, like to get
Yeah.
to like a level to attain, which is it's difficult, it's challenging, but like I came back from America like 2 days ago and like I'm excited to go back already. I
Yeah.
want to get back. I want to get back to Illinois straight away and just keep training
Yeah.
because the level there is so different. Like they're the closest thing I have to a family in jiu-jitsu and like they've literally welcomed me with open arms since the start. And I just think that like he obviously he promotes based on accolades of your competitors, but like he also sees everything else. Like, are you turning up every day to train? Are you being a good person on and off the mat? Like, so I think me having to be held to that level of a black belt, like that just means I'm going to do better as a black belt, and having Fionn as one of my best friends, it's
Yeah.
like that's even better.
Yeah,
It's
of
like I got
course.
these wonderful people in the US who want the best for me and expect the best for me, Otherwise, I'd just be like a random female black belt who, does nothing. Like I want to
Yeah.
be a Fionn level of black belt.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. That's absolutely fair enough. Listen, Rosa, if you don't mind, I have to read an advert. It's an unfortunate part of the podcasting is
No, you're
the
fine.
advert world, but I'm gonna read it in my best worst voice. Okay, Fusion Training Center, Monksland, Athlone, a place to train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, martial arts, and CrossFit. A great atmosphere with experienced coaches and a real sense of community. If you want to join the team, find us on Facebook at Fusion Training Center or drop in for a chat. Fusion Training Center, train like a warrior. So that's where I train, obviously. But thanks for putting up with that. But so where did the notion of competing uh come to you? When did it come to you? Or is this just your nature, like competitive? You need to be in those kind of situations.
Like I'm not really sure. Like I think I'm very competitive by nature anyway, and like I've always done like competitions even in other sports. But I think when I started originally, I think I was only training like 3 months before I competed for the first time. And I think it was like a case of like my coach was going, one of the other two or three people in the gym were going, and then I kind of went. And I was like, oh, this is like I'm very low maintenance. Like I just do whatever, So then from then on, it kind of snowballed, and like I've competed so many times, like over the last 8 years, like hundreds of times, And I just think that that was the thing with jiu-jitsu in general when I started. It was like with competing, I still haven't got the golden method, you
Yeah,
know. And like even with jiu-jitsu, like nobody's ever gonna get the golden method, but it's like when I my first class when I was like 17, I was like, I can't be good at this overnight, so
yeah,
I'm gonna have to just keep doing it until I'm somewhat good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I remember talking about now. I'm not a competitive person, never have been, right? But I do remember talking to one of the coaches who used to be in the gym about competing. If you were someone who has anxiety, I'm a person who has anxiety. Now, I wasn't suggesting that I was going to do it, but just kind of asking him. And his idea was that if you weren't comfortable in the gym, or if you weren't comfortable, sorry, not in the gym, in the the setting, wherever it was, the arena or the hall, and you weren't comfortable under those mats, that it's probably not the place to go. Not to turn up because you've already defeated yourself. Do you think that's a little bit black or white? Do you think there's a bit in the middle there where you can play around with that kind of idea? Now, I know this is kind of throwing a question at you where you may not have anxiety, maybe nervous. That's obviously a different thing. But do you think that makes sense to you?
It does, and I think it's fairly relevant in the fact that like obviously a lot of the same conditions in some ways will be like in the gym. If you're not comfortable there, like
Yeah,
that is the closest thing you're going to get to the competition. Obviously, you've got adrenaline and nerves on the day as well. I don't know. I think there's there's definitely an aspect in the middle where it's like
yeah,
you maybe find find some comfort in the gym and let me pull on that when you're about to compete or something. But like the thing with competing is that like it's never going to be easy. You're always going to have nerves and if there's an issue with anxiety and stuff, it's like it's going to be a real trial on yourself. And like if you're able to push through it, and I know now that like some of the sometimes I've competed, I've had a lot of
mm,
shit going on personally, and like for me, what's like what I was saying about the golden method for competing, it was like sometimes I've literally been crying and I've had personal issues and I've family issues the entire day coming up to the competition or the show, and I've had the best performance of my life.
yeah,
And then you've got other situations then when it's like I've got like the perfect breakfast, I weighed in right on weight, it's like I'm like ready to go, I've got like the right warm music, like all the right people around me, and then I've had a terrible performance. So sometimes I think that like I could have a terrible day, I could have a great day. I haven't figured out the factors that make me have a great day yet. But I think there's definitely you're always going to be challenging yourself, even if it's like to get onto the mat and you lose in the first second, or if it's like you last the full 5 or 6 minutes. I just think it's a question of what you want to achieve out of that competition, you know?
That yeah, you see, that makes sense to me because I've again, for people who are listening that might know me, like I'm not going to be competing, but I do always have in the back of my mind of like, would how amazing would it feel, or how terrible would it feel? It could work either way. That if you did get out on the mats for like, maybe you got choked after a minute, whatever it is, um, would it feel? Would you have competed or completed that goal and you were excited that you did it, or would you be kind of thinking, well, what was the point in doing it anyway? Because I just got choked within a minute, and it's like I don't think you can have the right answer unless you actually do it. But I don't think I wanted that. I don't think I need that answer. You know what I mean? It's a weird, but it just plays in your head. And it's when you see
Oh,
others competing, you see your mates competing and your teammates competing and stuff. There's always that in the back of your mind, like, what if? But at the same time, sometimes even getting to the arenas can be like a nervous experience for me because if there's a lot of people going to be there, like I might feel anxious. I can't go up like that, feel like that when I'm competing. So, but I want to ask you as well about to do with like highs and lows, because the highs are something that are, it depends what sports person you listen to, I guess. And the highs can be kind of quite fleeting. They can last quite a while. And Roy Keane thinks they're very fleeting, but the lows last a really long time. If you are in a particular low, Rosa, like how do you go about getting out of it? Is it just like keep jumping back in there, keep going training and stuff like that? Do you allow yourself a little bit of breathing space to kind of center yourself? Is it a bit of both?
I think for me, like I can't really leave myself the breathing space, and like
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like I've been in therapy for a long time. Like I don't know really if that's like a positive or a negative thing, but like following Who's Number One in November, that was like on a Friday night. So I lost the match, and like it was the biggest show biggest thing I've ever done. It was
Right.
like streamed to thousands and thousands of people on flow grappling. I was on the card with some of the biggest names in jiu-jitsu. It was just absolutely incredible. And I lost. Like it was like one of the probably the biggest lows I've ever experienced. And like it took me so that when I came back to Mount Vernon to Illinois, I went to the Sunday night open mat. And like that's something now that's really important to me is that like regardless of what happens in the competition that I've been to, I have to make it to the open mat,
Okay.
win or lose. I was like, that's something now that's like if I've done that, it's like I'll be at a neutral position to go back into the new week. Because I'm just gonna get my ass beat anyway at that session, regardless of win or loss. But like I went after his number one, I went to that session. Couldn't speak to anybody. I was so upset. People were saying like, "Oh, hard luck for the over the weekend and whatever," and I literally couldn't speak to them because I was going to start crying. Did like 4 or 5 rounds, and then I ended up leaving a little bit early, but I didn't go into the gym for the next 3 days because I couldn't get out of bed.
Okay.
And like I never take losses that bad. Like I've lost so many times in the past. Like and I didn't take I took it really, really badly. And it took me and the only thing that pulled me out of that was when I went in on whatever the Wednesday or the Thursday. And they were like, "Oh, we missed you, whatever." And then one of the guys is like, you can't do that every time you lose, Rhoda. You can't just leave and not turn up to the gym.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna start crying again. And he was like, Rhoda, it's gonna happen again. You're going to lose in the future. You're going to win in the future, but like you can't take the loss that hard. Like we all like nothing's changed for us here. Like we all love you. We all like you're part of our family here. Um, and like I was so taken back. Like I was just when he said that he was. And this is one of the macho guys. Like this is the
Yeah.
one that we like you've never heard from. And he was like, Rosa, like I don't know what happened on your old gym or your old situation, but like just because you lost this one match by decision to a black belt
All right.
doesn't make you any less in our eyes. Like you came and turned up to the Sunday night training, and then when you were gone for the 2 days, like just like you can't leave it affect you this deeply. Like, it was like we all love you, like, and then from then on, it was like that reality check that I needed. It was like that wasn't my last match ever, and it won't be my last match ever. It won't be my first loss. It wasn't my first loss. It was my last loss. Then after that, it was like 2 weeks later, I did Grapple Fest. I won the title in Grapple Fest within 2 weeks, and it was like a massive high.
Yeah.
Then I got back then to Mount Vernon after Grapple Fest, and I went to the Sunday night session, and it was a lot different. And then I lost at Worlds afterwards. And after Worlds, the same guy when we were in LA said to me, he was like, look at the difference, Rosa.
Yeah.
Look, like you won a grapple fest and that was fine. And like when I win, I don't make a big deal of it. It's like, okay, box ticked onto the next one.
Yeah.
But then when I lost that match using run, it was like, Jesus Christ, a massive dump of just sadness. But then after I took the loss of worlds so well, and it's nothing to be proud of. Like it's a lost, but
No, but
I
yeah.
think from that reality check and from having those people around me, it was like this is what I need. I can't like even though like he could have said that to me on the Monday or on the Sunday after when I came back after his number one, and that would have been fine. But it was like those 2 days where like I didn't get out of bed, I didn't eat. I was watching fucking Grey's Anatomy for like 2 days. I watched like 5 seasons of it, and it was like that was too close to home. That was me reverting back to a state that I was in a long time ago, and I was like, I'm not there. I'm not going back there. So like having those people, and like that's why I keep going back to Mount Vernon because I was like, I'm around these people who like won't leave me give up on myself.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. Like I'm very confident. I'm confident in my ability to pull myself out of a slump, but like for some reason that Who's Number One loss just like that broke me. Like that brought me really really low. But look, it was the reality check I needed from your man, and it was just like all right, I'm back. Like of course I'm going back. Like after that.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. That's beautiful as well because I do find that there's something quite tribal about jujitsu in gyms and in a positive sense, obviously. And that idea that people have there's all sort of waifs and strays, I think, that come into a jiu-jitsu gym, and it's some quite quiet people. Some are a bit more flamboyant. It can be a great, like, kind of mixture of people. I think I've kind of found a home in there, and it's the same situation that if I was feeling, anxious or feeling particularly down and stuff like that, going in there is always a helpful like solution to it. I think that's hugely important, and um. So for when you go to somewhere like, because I'm again about mindset, I suppose. If you go to a local jiu-jitsu tournament compared to the worlds or the Europeans, does the mindset change, or do you try not to allow it to change? You're not trying to get into your head that oh, this is the worlds I'm going to.
Um, yes and no. Like I think in general, I if I put a lot of pressure on myself and stuff, and it's like this is it, this is the big one, regardless whether it's like a local show or the world. That's when I kind of fuck it up.
Yeah,
But like a big thing for me is that like I have to be really like I like that's why I love having Fionn around and Jacob as well, Couch, is because the two of them are just such messers, and like I
right.
love that beforehand. Like neither of them take it seriously. They're both just like obviously such amazing competitors, and it's like um I don't know, I just once I'm like laughing, I'm
Yeah,
messing, and like even before one of the grapple fests in October, like me and Fionn were messing, dancing beforehand, and it was like it was so fun, and I was like that just reminds me why I'm doing it.
yeah,
This is my job now, and it's like something I took up like 8 years ago, like a little hobby, and now like I'm making money for it. I get to teach all around the world. I get to travel around the world. I've got like such an amazing life from the sport, and like all of that, like I just try to remember all of that before I compete, and then like yeah, and then that's when I do the best when I'm having
yeah.
fun beforehand.
I I'd say it was how long ago was it now? Maybe 6 months ago, maybe. Well, it might be that long. But I set up a women's jiu-jitsu class in our gym because it was something that was, I suppose, it was like a whole gap missing in the town here for it. And there was a number of gyms around the country here anyway, that were setting them up, and it's something I'm very proud of, obviously. But it was something that was interesting to me in the nature that they're obviously a lot more comfortable. They seem a lot more comfortable going with each other at the start. Okay. I'm guessing you didn't join a women's a jiu-jitsu class and you started. You just jumped into wherever it was. Like, the idea being for me, for the people coming in as they progress, I hope that they'll jump into the jiu-jitsu class. The, the jiu-jitsu class that's been running for years and years, I suppose, and feel a bit more confident and assured that what they're doing, and that it's not very brutal or anything like that, and then keep bringing new people in and new people in, and that's why I thought it was important to chat to someone like yourself, obviously being of a high level, like who jumped in at the deep end as such, and just went for it. How do you see those women's class? You see them popping up in America? Have they been kind of a thing over there?
Um, Like I think, like first of all, for me, like for the first 6 years, the only females ever rolled with were in competition, which
Right.
like I
Okay.
never rolled. Like I was the only girl for a long time. But see in Pedigo specifically, it's very similar to my old gym and like in Cork, or it's like kind of like very like kind of scruffy, like very kind of like grimy, and it's like just pure grit and like
Yeah.
hard work. And it's like the girls that come in, they just go straight into the
Yeah.
mixed class, you know. And it's like I do find that like in some places the females class can be used as seen as like a crutch,
Right.
as like a safety blanket, because like um then it's like they only ever want to roll with girls and stuff, you know, which isn't maybe conducive to growth in
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu. I know now in a few gyms that I've been with is that they've had like 6 weeks female beginners course. Then after the 6 weeks, the girls go into the main class. So it's not a case of it's the female class and then they may or not go into the mixed class. Like that female class ends, so they go into the mixed class, which I think does work well
Yeah.
because then there's a group of the girls who finish the beginners course together. They have some awareness of what to do. Then they go into the mixed class then, and they're kind of like I suppose amalgamated.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think in America there's a mixture of both. Like there's a lot of
Okay.
in the atoses and alliances of the world. There's a lot of like female classes, but it's like competitive girls,
Right.
which I
Okay.
think is
Yeah.
fantastic. So it's like even a step further. So it's not like a females class or it's not like a mixed class. It's like the competition training, but it's
Yeah.
just girls because they have the amount of girls needed, you know,
Yeah.
which I think that's really fascinating. But yeah, in general, I think this kind of it really like ranges, you know, it
Of
really
course. Yeah.
changes.
I think at the start when I started rolling with them, you're kind of just moving smoothly. And after about 3 months, I thought I have to start picking it up now a bit because I'm getting kind of mauled here. So it's good to see the progression. And obviously, look, they're comfortable with me as well, like as being the coach and stuff. And we have a bit of crack. I'm a kind of person who it doesn't actually matter who I'm rolling with in the gym. I'm always talking during the rolls. Like it annoys some people, I know that. Like, but then other people, like they'll just talk back. It's a bit of crack, like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's not that important, you know what I mean? For me, it's not, it's like it's a thing for my mental health more than anything else, I suppose. So Rosa, then would you say you're no gi over gi then?
I'm better in no gi, but I do
Okay.
prefer the gi.
All right.
Yeah, I'm kind of one of the weird ones. Like I just think with the gi, it's that like it's pure jiu-jitsu, and like
Yeah.
anybody who disagrees is just silly. Like it's like jiu-jitsu was in the gi originally, and then obviously no gi grappling or submission grappling was like a counterpart of it. I think with the gi, there's so much more to learn.
Yeah.
Like you can never really be the best of the best because like there's always like a new aspect of the game coming into it. Whereas like in Nogi, you have the Gordon Ryan of the world who will pretty unstoppable in Nogi, but then in Gi, you have multiple bests in the world, because
Yeah.
they're all good at a certain part of the thing of jiu-jitsu. So yeah, definitely, I'd better in Nogi, but I prefer the Gi.
That's fun. It's funny actually, because like I'm definitely for gi, but when I started, we had like a gi coach who was the owner, Martin. And then we had John who used to be there, and he always taught Nogi. He was always more into the 10th planet stuff and that kind of,
Oh yeah,
which is a bit of fun. But for me, at my age, I know, but my flexibility more than my age, that I just couldn't do some of the stuff. My hips weren't able to do it.
yeah.
So I started gravitating towards Martin's classes anyway, and the gi. And like when you mentioned wrestling earlier on, obviously it complements the Nogi stuff so much. Like,
Hmm.
um, I always think that in Nogi, or sorry, in Gi, like you're never really safe. There's always a choke that can be put on from somewhere.
Of course.
Yeah, you think you're all right at one part. I'm fine here, and then all of a sudden you're tapping out. Like, and I find it more interesting to learn Gi. Now, every so often, someone say, "Do you want to do no Gi?" I'll do it. Like, but I pull guard straight away. I'm not wrestling. I'm no interest. I'll just you can come to me and then we'll figure it out. Now, Rose, I know you want to start, or you've do it already, of course, but doing seminars and stuff like that. Um, when you're doing seminars, because we had one with Kieran Davern
Ah, yes.
a couple of months ago, maybe it wasn't even that long
Hmm.
ago, actually. Now, Kieran would be Martin's coach, so Kieran gave me my blue belt, and he'd been over a few times, and he's such a nice face. He's been on the podcast actually, but I don't know, I went off on one there, but you're with seminars and stuff like that. is there particular sequences that you really like? Is there a choke or a sequence that you're particularly known for in your gym?
Um, yes and no. So like it's like gi, then it's different to no
Yeah.
gi. Like for gi, it's like or sorry for no gi, it's primarily like wrestling and passing, and then
Right.
arm bars. Like that's like I'm doing a seminar in somewhere in the next couple of months,
Okay.
somewhere.
Yeah,
It's in
no, I
my
saw the
it's in
poster.
my one of them, and it's like and they want me to focus on arm bars. That'll be kind of funny, like because it's for some reason I can't seem to do any other submission in competition than an arm bar.
Okay.
It's like not intentional at all. But like it's a lot of wrestling focused. Even in the gi, I wrestle a lot. Um, I don't know. I just think I was born to be a wrestler, and then obviously Ireland has absolutely no wrestling.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah. So a lot of passing on, but I think in general, like I obviously in the last couple of years, I've worked a lot on my guard, but I am primarily like a passer, wrestler, and stuff. So it's a lot of different types of wrestling and passing.
Yeah,
Both for gi and no gi.
I think like obviously Kieran Davern he did a bit of wrestling with us in the last one, and the time before he came, it was footlocks and stuff. And again, not that our gym uses footlocks that often. It's not a huge part of our gym, I would say. And the wrestling thing, just those little bits, tiny little details that I would have never have known
Mm-hmm.
or even have thought of, and then all of a sudden you're like, am I a wrestler now? You think you're all of a
Yeah,
sudden, you know what I mean? So stupid, a couple of like arm drags or something, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's opened the world to me. But I
yeah,
love that when somebody comes in. Who do we have in? Claudia Duval we had in, and
nice.
yeah, there was someone else. Anyways, I can't really remember. But again, it was just those tiny little things. Um, where you know, doing a triangle and just grabbing the back of the gi instead of the back of the neck or so. Just these little things. You're like,
Yeah.
blows your mind. Like, that's really what I'm saying. But, so like, do you find those kind of, I wrote this question before I knew you were a teacher in the first place, like a PE teacher. So this is
Yeah.
probably a silly question now, but I'm going to ask it. Do you find them daunting enough, the seminars?
No, I like it even better than teaching English and PE, like, because,
Okay.
like, English and PE, it was fine, but, like, you obviously had to follow some sort of a curriculum.
Yeah.
Whereas with jiu-jitsu, it's like, I like teaching, I'm a pretty confident teacher, and it's like, I get to do it now with jiu-jitsu, which is even
Yeah.
cooler, so it's like, just kind of like putting all my passions together. It's really, really nice.
Yeah. Because sometimes I, uh, I watch people like stand in front of a lot of people and explain things, and some people are just kind of made for it, with that kind of confidence, certain amount of confidence that they have to
Hmm.
it. Because I'm like, even when I'm teaching class, like I'm stumbling over my words and doing all this kind of stuff, and I kind of, it's all right when you're there and people know who you are because we can all have a bit of crack. But if you're there kind of new and people don't know you, it's like I gotta just don't mess this up. But apart from this, Rosa, apart from all this jujitsu talk, what do you like to do in your spare time?
Um, I like really kind of cheesy things. Like I
Okay,
like hiking and I like baking and surfing and
they're not cheesy, they're
sailing. Very like cliche stuff. Um, but no, I just like I think even now after Worlds, like when going to New York, I went to New York straight after Worlds. And that was something that was like this is like purely just for my own enjoyment,
yeah.
nothing to do with jiu-jitsu, nothing to do with being an athlete or anything. Like I went to see New York at Christmas because I've always wanted to do that. It's like Home Alone and stuff.
Yeah, it
And
was.
that was it.
Sorry, I followed your Odyssey on Instagram,
Yeah.
and
Oh God.
no, no,
Or
no. I'm
or
not
we
going to say.
stayed up all night.
I'm not going to say anything, but that's what popped into my head about it because you did put up about the post about wanting to go there, but uh, Home Alone 2 Lost in New York. It seemed very lost in New York, I think.
My God, I didn't make that connection, but exactly. Yeah. It was just so nice, and it was like this is just like at the end of the day, yes, I'm a professional athlete or whatever, but like I'm also like a 25-year-old like female who just wants to like obviously have a normal life,
Yeah,
just do normal things as well. Like even now, I'm back in Ireland in like 2 days, and like I'm going for dinner with friends I haven't seen in like a year tonight and stuff. So it's just nice to do these things as well, even though like my jiu-jitsu life is like my dream life, like, and I can't sometimes I forget like how cool it is I get to do that as a job, but it's also nice to do like girly things as well,
yeah.
because I get beat up for a living.
Essentially, that is what you do. But like,
Essentially.
like you said, 25 years of age, doing what you love and doing it for for a living. It's an incredible place to be.
Yeah.
Future plans then, Rosa, is it just worlds again, all the things, Europeans, all those kind of things again?
Yeah, so like I've got the European ski at the end of January. Um and then like the biggest thing for next year, like the gi, it'll always be great and everything, but like the no gi stuff, that's
Yeah.
where I will more than likely be able to achieve more of my goals than in the gi. So the trials, ACC trials next year, and then the worlds next year. And like I spoke to, like, because I'm actually part of the season 3 of Daisy Fresh.
All right.
Um it's like the Pentacle girl, Daisy Fresh girl. um, but I spoke to them after Worlds after I lost, and I was like, I'll be here again next year, probably as a brown belt, seeing as I'm, I'll be the longest brown belt in history. But like that's the big goal for next year is that I've become a European champion, I've become a Pan American champion, I've achieved a lot of other things in my career in the last couple of years, but it's like I still haven't done that.
Yeah.
That's a big thing for me. So Nogi World is the big one for next year, but I do have a lot of other ones and like Euros and stuff like that. And like I'll probably do the pans and the gi again. But yeah,
We'll
I'm excited.
we'll all be rooting for you for sure, Rosa.
Thank
You've
you.
been a fantastic guest for sharing your knowledge and your experiences in jiu-jitsu.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Listen, don't go just yet.
Oh yeah.
I will have to finish the episode and I have to get a photo because it's a tradition at this stage. So we'll do that. All
Okay.
right. Listen, I want to say thanks also to John Francis for doing all the tech for me. I always thank my mom, my dad, granddad, Jordan Calvin for the music and the graphics. We're on YouTube. Subscribe if you would over there. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all the usual handles and stuff. And follow Rosa over there. By Rosa, what's your tag over there?
Rosa underscore BJJ.
Rosa underscore BJJ. That's not a tag, is it? It's what's it called? Is it a tag?
Handle.
Handle, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
It's close. We're also on Spotify, Apple, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and all the other ones. Obviously, thank you all very much for tuning in today, and we'll obviously be back next week. Rosa, thanks once again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Right, so see you everyone. Bye.